Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar Using Office Mix with Moodle to Create Lesson Plan Content. My name is Brian Poss. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Remote Learner, and I'm joined by Jim Federico from the Office Mix team at Microsoft as our guest speaker today. Just a few quick points before we get started. If you have any questions, please enter them in the question box, and our moderators will do the best they can to answer those questions for you. We'll also do a brief Q&A session at the end of the webinar as well to answer questions as well. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jim, and we'll get started. Thanks, everyone.
Well, hey, thank you, and good morning, everybody. Super excited to be here. So in the next hour or so, I'm going to take you through the following topics. We're going to talk about how Microsoft thinks about readiness in the 21st century. We'll talk about Mix's role in digital learning, give you a good introduction to Office Mix, and of course take you through a whole bunch of interesting Office Mix demos. First, sound check. Can everyone hear me okay? Fantastic. Thanks for that, Kala, Larry, Matt, Kevin, John. Much appreciated. Thank you. All right, well, I'm going to jump into this here. So again, these are the topics I'm going to get through here in the next little bit. So this is really how Microsoft thinks about training digital learning in the 21st century here. You know, content that's modular, easily updated, and easily, of course, on the Mix team, what we refer to as remixable. Rich media with embedded interactables. I know for the educators on the call, interactable isn't actually a word, but I kind of like it because it describes a key capability that Mix provides. Mix provides opportunities that are optimized for voice, digital link, keyboard, mouse, and so forth. And you'll find that of a lot of Microsoft products here going forward. Content really should be easily shareable and embeddable everywhere. There's a number of internet standards as well as emerging training industry and EDU industry standards that we'll talk about in a little while that really enable easily embedding and sharing of content across experiences. We also think a lot about social incentives and enabling a collaborative environment, really essential for flipped classroom and blended training scenarios. And of course, we think deeply about the value of the cloud and the power of the cloud in terms of driving and providing cross-platform great experiences. Now, we've also done a lot of research within Microsoft and have some interesting products that I'll show you in a little bit here around how the data that we collect in terms of student outcomes and user data really can be used to personalize instruction. You'll see in a little while how Mix presents interesting analytics views back to authors and educators so that they can tailor their instruction and update their content based on feedback. And naturally, we provide extensible platforms that allow partners and others to extend our solutions to deliver fantastic new innovations. So what we hear from educators is that their objective is often to captivate and invigorate students. I volunteer occasionally in my second graders' classroom, and captivating, managing, I suppose, that classroom is definitely a challenge. And we like to think that Office Mix has a hand in delivering interesting, engaging lessons that can help captivate and invigorate students. We certainly think deeply about supporting educators who are looking to deliver blended learning solutions as well as flipped classroom. Now, students, of course, they just want to deliver assignments using rich media. And we see a really interesting trend of both in the enterprise space as well as in the EDU space is having work assignments being produced in Office Mix. And the benefit of that is that students get to use their voice, video, and digital linking to create and deliver engaging, interactive presentations that can scale across the cloud. And of course, students also expect these days that content, in fact, is delivered in a way that's mobile friendly. And I'll show you how Mix supports that shortly. And administrators, want to inspire teachers in terms of delivering engaging professional development. So we think of Mix along these same lines. Mix is a free add-in to PowerPoint 2013 and above. The PowerPoint 2013 authoring component is free. The cloud storage, encoding, distribution, playback is also free. And so Mix isn't a for-sale product. It's a free add-in to PowerPoint that anyone can go and download from mix.office.com. And Mix allows you to add your voice and audio, video, and inking to slides. You can also create and embed engaging quizzes and polls and different types of simulations. And then the thing that I find most profound about Mix, though it's not going to sound particularly profound, is that because the Mix file format is simply a PowerPoint file, it makes editing and remixing super easy. You just change the deck, upload it to mix.office.com, and you're done. There's no fidgeting around with who's got the source code, who's got the right tool that created this course. You simply make a change to the PowerPoint presentation, re-upload it to mix.office.com, and you're done. We also think a lot about this engagement notion, which is why we've provided the ability to add quizzes and polls and embedded simulations to PowerPoint via Office Mix. Now, Mixes really want to be shared. Mix is a cloud service and that works cross-platform, across device. Now, I mentioned that on the authoring side, Mix is an add-in to PowerPoint 2013, so that requires PowerPoint 2013 on the PC to author content. For viewers, for consumers, for learners, there is no licensing component. It doesn't require a PC, and it works across most modern platforms and modern browsers. And then finally, Mix is an extensible platform, which means that we have partners that are delivering new innovations inside of Mix all the time. That just helps to speed up the pace of innovation. In addition to the Mix team inside of Microsoft delivering interesting innovations, we have a ton of partners out there doing some great work that are benefiting Mix users. We also think a lot about measuring engagement and measuring student outcomes. And so you'll see when I demo this that we provide slide-by-slide, user-by-user analytics that can provide some rich and interesting insights back to educators. And of course, the other thing we see oftentimes is another way to drive engagement is to embed polls inside of slide decks converted into Mixes in order to ask questions and drive engagement with your audience. So for example, after today's webinar, I'll be sharing this PowerPoint presentation by way of Office Mix, and I'll have a poll question at the end. And so if any of you want to provide feedback to me or to a remote learner, you can engage within the context of the Office Mix by providing that feedback. So at this point, I'm just going to jump right in and give you guys a demo of part of Office Mix. So as you can see, I'm now inside of PowerPoint, and I've got a slide open here inside of PowerPoint. I'm going to go to the Mix tab. So I've installed Mix by going to mix.office.com, and I've installed the Office Mix add-in. And when I install the Office Mix add-in, I'm greeted by this toolbar that has buttons and new capabilities that weren't in PowerPoint previously. I'm going to demo much of this capability for you in the next few minutes. Slide recording is a way of me adding audio, video, and inking to slides. Quizzes, videos, and apps is where I can embed a web browser. I can embed quizzes and assessment questions, polls, and some other interactive widgets directly to my PowerPoint slide. Mix provides for the ability to do screen recording, as well as to grab snapshots of screenshots of other applications that I have open. Now, Mix also allows you to reuse media that you've recorded outside of Office Mix or outside of PowerPoint. So if you have a video or some audio that you want to share inside the context of a slide, you can simply drag and drop it onto a slide and upload it to Office Mix. And Office Mix takes care of all the hard bits around delivering a quality video experience. We deal with the encoding and the multi-bit rate stuff and the distribution across the content distribution network. We deal with smooth streaming so that everyone gets a good experience independent of bandwidth. And of course, we track a ton of analytics that we present back to the content author. And there are some additional capabilities that I'll take you through in a little bit around what do I do once I'm done with my mix in order to share this in a great experience. So here we're going to go through the slide recording demo. So I've clicked on slide recording, and I'm now in a new mode that we've added to PowerPoint via the Office Mix add-in. And so you'll notice a few things when I'm in this environment. On the right-hand side, I can choose my camera. Now, truth is, most people don't really want to be recorded on camera and have their content shared. That's a little secret that we know because we review a bunch of Office Mix data, but oftentimes there is a good experience in welcoming your audience with some degree of video. Now, I might be among those shy ones, so I'm going to turn off video. You can choose your microphone, and so I've got a number of microphones that I've set up currently. That way it's tracking my voice that I'm going to add to my slide experience. I can choose my pen type. I like the default that I've got there, and then I can choose a color. Now, I happen to be on a Surface device which has a touch screen, and so I might be using my pen to ink the screen as I'm telling my story around my slide, though mouse works just as well. You'll also notice there's this interesting teleprompter feature that shows up in the middle of the record mode experience. That's essentially taking your slide notes and presenting them here so that as I hit record, I can in fact talk through my slide notes just like you might a teleprompter if you were on stage giving a keynote address. So I'm going to click record now, and I'm going to record my audio of me telling you the story of the 3 parts of Office Mix. So here we go, click and record. All right, so now Office Mix is recording my voice. So Office Mix is really 3 things. It's the learner experience that we deliver inside of an innovative player. Office Mix is the authoring experience within PowerPoint that adds a new toolbar and new capabilities that weren't previously in PowerPoint. And Office Mix is also an administrative experience where authors of content, educators, get access to rich analytics that they can use to personalize instruction and improve their lessons going forward. So I've just hit stop for that. So I've recorded my audio. I chose not to record my video in this case. And I've recorded some inking. And what I'd like to do next is just play that back for you so you can see what the learner experience or your user experience is going to look like. All right, so now Office Mix is recording my voice. So Office Mix is really 3 things. It's the learner experience that we deliver inside of an innovative player. Okay, so I can stop that. You get the idea. So we synchronize the playback of the inking, of the slide transitions and slide animations, as well as my voice to create an engaging experience. Now what I'd like to do next is show you the end user experience. So in the cooking show demo strategy that I have here, I'll show you the outcome or the end result, and then I'll take you through some tips and tricks of how in fact you can achieve these end results. So I'm going to demo for you a couple Office Mixes that have been produced by others. This is one that I find particularly interesting. And in the mix that I share with you after the fact, I'll provide you with links to all of the Office Mixes that I'm demoing during today's conversation. So here is one where the author created this Office Mix to present Ohm's Law. So as you can hear, there's audio that I'll mute here. There's audio that's aligned to the slide animations that James, the author of this Office Mix, created. Now, a couple things to note. You'll notice that on the bottom, we call this the little scrubber bar. I can hover over the various sections, and it reveals for me the content that's underneath that. By content, essentially what we mean is these are individual slides. So this is slide 1. As I go to, this is slide 2, and I can hover over and go to slide 3, go to slide 4, and so forth. And so Office Mix, the end user experience, is auto-modularized based on the notion of a slide. Now, if you don't believe me, let me click on Slide Sorter View. So those of us who spend time inside of PowerPoint, you're familiar with Slide Sorter View. It's a way of getting the all-up view of the content within your slide deck. Well, we present the Slide Sorter View using thumbnails directly back to students and viewers of the mix to really enable rapid navigation directly to specific slides that they might have an interest in. So for example, I've skipped right to this slide that gets right to the heart of Ohm's law. And you'll notice that the author created this graphic inside of PowerPoint, not particularly complicated. And then as he's talking through Ohm's law, he in fact is using the inking capabilities to annotate different parts of what Ohm's law is. Now this next part within the presentation is the author chose to embed a video inside of his presentation, a way of kind of comically showing what happens when you stick a fork or a knife inside of a toaster. Now the next thing that this author did was produce this animation and embedded a web browser inside of the Office Mix experience. So that's an Office Mix example that is a pretty sophisticated one in that there's slide animations that might go a little bit beyond the average PowerPoint skill set, so not that far. The author embedded video that wasn't recorded in Office Mix. Maybe he got it from YouTube or somewhere else. And the author also embedded some other interactables within the experience. Now the next thing I'll note is Office Mix, the end result, the Mix player that I just showed you, really wants to be embedded within third-party systems, embedded in learning management systems, embedded in portals, embedded in Moodle, of course. And so here's an example of that, where Microsoft has this blog page from our Microsoft Open Technology guys, and we produced a mix, as you would expect, that talks about how our Moodle integration in fact works. And what I want you to notice here is, here's the Mix player, but it's not actually on the Mix website. We've embedded it inside of this experience. And this is a video that I'll share with everyone via my Office Mix after today's call that goes through the details around how Mix can be embedded inside of the Moodle Learning Management System. Now here's another example of this. Here's a fellow by the name of Bill Gates who has a blog, and Bill created this mix that he calls Our Poor Countries Doomed to Stay Poor, where his mix, of course, is embedded within his blog. And so as I progress through this Office Mix, if I had the volume up, you'd hear Bill's talk track over the slide, and you'll see that there's also slide animations, and Bill's using some inking to accentuate a point. And so again, the only tool that's used to author this experience is in fact PowerPoint plus Office Mix. Now this looks a lot like a video, and video is a fantastic way of driving engagement, but video has some downsides. One of the downsides of video is that video broke the hyperlink. And I know a lot of authors and educators who produce content that is rich with hyperlinks. What people in PowerPoint often do is they'll create a PowerPoint presentation that links to itself as a way of enabling people to navigate directly to slide 7 or slide 8 or module 2, as well as have hyperlinks out to other content, across the web. And so Office Mix is in fact the PowerPoint app being presented in a browser with some Mix magic added to it. In other words, Mix presents your PowerPoint presentation exactly as the author had intended. Slide animations, slide transitions, hyperlinks, just work. And then we've added the rich media capability and inking, as well as interactables to the Mix experience. Let me give you one more example. So here's the SharePoint site that the Office Mix team uses to collaborate. And here's an example of where I've just quickly integrated an Office Mix inside of one of our SharePoint sites. Couldn't be any easier. So let me next go to back to my PowerPoint presentation, and I'll show you the authoring side of producing an Office Mix. So on this slide, we talked about how Mix's slide record mode allows you to record video, audio, and inking to the slide, and that's all played back to the viewers, to the learners, in a way that's synchronized in that engaging player. Now what I'd like to demo for you next is how to create quizzes and assessments or polls inside of Office Mix. So I'm going to choose a multiple choice quiz from our list of options. But let me show you some of the options that we provide. The first four are assessment and poll types. And then after that, what we've done is we've partnered with a variety of organizations that provide great education tools or great education content in a way that you can, with one click, embed lessons produced by others directly into your Office Mix. So for example, Khan Academy content can be easily imported and embedded within the Office Mix experience. If you want to teach someone how to program in Python, there's a Python simulator that you can embed within Office Mix. You can also embed a web viewer and a variety of other assets. I'll take you through a few of those in just a moment. I'm going to choose multiple choice quiz, and we're going to just embed this in my slide. And so what's interesting to note is this is now a PowerPoint object inside my slide, so I can cut and paste it, I can move it across slides, I can change the size, I can do whatever I want with it. It's a PowerPoint object. And now I'm going to type the question of my quiz. Maybe let me come here. Oh, sorry about this. My keyboard's broken, folks. Can you believe that? In a webinar, my keyboard chooses to break itself. So I'm going to talk you through how this would work. Otherwise, it's pretty simple. So I've embedded a quiz type called multiple choice question. As you can see, I can type the name of my question in there. I can then choose some different options. Do I want single choice or multiple choice to be correct? We can shuffle the answers or limit the amount of attempts, meaning you got to get it right the first time, or we'll give you 3 attempts to get it right. And you can provide little hints to the student or the viewer. And here's where I would type all of my distractors or the answers. And then I can preview it to see what the experience would look like from the learner's perspective. Now the key thing to know here is it's pretty simple, provided your keyboard works. And it's a PowerPoint object. So the skills that people have, 1.5 billion of us have in how to use PowerPoint, transfer perfectly to how to use Office Mix. So the next thing I thought I'd demo is I'll go back to my quizzes, videos, and apps, and I'll embed a web viewer. And so this is a commonly used interactable widgets that we see folks using when they embed, when they want to present content in a way that's interactive. And rather than copy-paste content from the web, instead you can just send your users or your learners, off to the actual web page. And so what I'm showing here is I've actually embedded a Wikipedia page inside of my PowerPoint experience. So when I upload this to mix.office.com and we present it inside of that innovative player that I just took you through, your students or viewers get access to the live web page. Not a screenshot of the web page, not a video of the web page, but they get access to the actual live web page that they can use to navigate around with. We think that's a pretty compelling experience. So what I might do next is I'll show you just some of the content that we have aggregated that you can simply reuse within your Office Mix experience, and a few of the other tools that you can provide. Now, teaching math using a computer can sometimes be challenging because the keyboard doesn't always lend itself well to producing rich formulas. And so we've partnered with this company called Fluid Math that provides for a really fantastic way of teaching math lessons within Office Mix. So what I can do here is I can choose some of the demos that they've provided for us, and I'll show you the power of using Fluid Math as embedded in Office Mix to teach some simple math concepts. This is going to show up for me in just a minute here. There we go. All right. So again, this is just a PowerPoint object, as I've said. So I can move it around the screen. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. I can cut, copy, paste it, and put it in any number of slides, any number of PowerPoint decks that I want. And this is a pretty sophisticated way of presenting some pretty sophisticated topics. So, for example, I can click play here, and what Fluid Math has done is...
Sorry about that, everyone.
Yeah, Jim, we had several questions about the Fluid Math, so if you
Sure.
just want to start back there and maybe elaborate
sure
a little
will.
on that.
I sure will. And my sincere apologies for some connectivity issues there to everyone on the phone. Yeah, let me take you through the Fluid Math demo that I just gave. This is really a neat way of teaching math within PowerPoint. Now, I mentioned I'm using a Surface device, which of course has a touchscreen and a stylus, but this really works equally as well with mouse and keyboard. I've dropped this this interactable, we call it, into my Office Mix. And once I do that, it's now, as I've said, it's now a full-class PowerPoint object, so I can move it around and resize it if I like. I can come in here and change some of the formulas here simply by using some inking. And they've created some pretty sophisticated-looking tutorials directly within the experience that are interactable. So I can change some of the variables within my formula by changing sliders. I can come in here and remove some of the variables by crossing out some of the text and then adding some of my own. This, like the rest of Office Mix, is free. It's an interactable that you can get access to simply by clicking the quizzes, videos, and apps button. So the next thing I wanted to do is, just before I upload this PowerPoint presentation here to mix.office.com, sort of remind you of some of the benefits that we think of as with Office Mix. That I talked about when I showed you a number of examples of Office Mixes, that content is automatically modularized into scenes. That's where you have that scrubber bar at the bottom where you hover over and it shows you the content on that slide. You can click on slide sorter mode and go directly to the specific scene or content that the learner or viewer wants access to. The experience can also really be optimized on a slide-by-slide basis. What I mean by that is some slides you can have full screen video. That's a good experience. Some slides you might just have slide content with voiceover audio, like I'm talking through here. And I may choose to use some inking as well. You can also do a picture-in-picture experience where you can have the video be small screen and the slides be front and center. Text is super clear and hyperlinks are live. So video killed the hyperlink. That's kind of unfortunate. Well, Mix brings it back, and it brings it back because when Mix is presented in the browser, it's the PowerPoint slides as the author intended presented. And so what we find is PowerPoint creators frequently use hyperlinks to jump to specific slides. That's a way of creating a table of contents and a good way of indexing slide content. You can also, of course, have hyperlinks that take users to different content outside of PowerPoint entirely. Viewers can speed up or slow down the playback speed. That's great for when the presenter's language is the viewer's second language. You can slow down playback speed. Or if you just want to get twice the amount of learning done in half the amount of time, you can speed it up to 2x. Viewers can also download mixes. So after today's presentation, I'm going to upload this presentation in a minute here to Office Mix, and then we'll get access to everyone who's joined today's webinar through the Remote Learner website, access to the mix, and then you can download my presentation. When you download my presentation, you can swap out some of my slides with your own, you can leverage my themes, you can use any of the content and reuse it for any purpose that you want. And that's an interesting kind of profound notion in that the source code here, if you will, for Office Mix is one PowerPoint file. And there's 1.5 billion of us on the earth that have PowerPoint skills and PowerPoint, and so it's as ubiquitous as an editor as any other. That's for sure. That's the remixing scenario that we think is pretty powerful. A couple other quick points is if it's desirable, and in all cases it's not, we also provide for easy one-click sharing via email, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Google+, and others via the ability to just embed a mix inside of other experiences like I've showed you. But what I'd like to do next is I'm going to go ahead and go through the upload process. And so the first thing the upload process here asks me is it asks me to sign in. And it asks me to sign in so that it creates an account for me in Office Mix if I don't already have one. And in that way, it then gives me a place in the Office Mix website that has all of my mixes. So I can go and manage them, look at the analytics, play them, change permissions, and so forth. And we support a whole bunch of login types. We support, you can log in with your Google account, with your Facebook account, with your Microsoft account, or if you're an organization that uses Office 365, you can log in with that institution account as well. I'm going to log in with my Microsoft account. Now this next step in our upload wizard is an important one, is I can choose whether this is a new mix or an existing mix. It presents me that option because if I just made changes to a mix that I had created yesterday, I found a typo, I replied to some feedback, I can choose update an existing mix, in which case it then just overwrites a mix that I had published previously. That's important because if this afternoon I send all of you a link to my Office Mix, and then I go and I change it, and the URL changes, I would then need to crawl back that URL that I sent and then send you a new one, and that's kind of disruptive. Or if my mix were embedded inside of Moodle, if I update my mix, I don't have to change the embed. The students or the users that see it after I update it get access to the new content automatically. Now this other little checkbox here is also an important one as I go through this next step. That checkbox says if viewers present themselves to your Office Mix via a mobile device that doesn't have all of the same features as a PC or a Mac and so forth, have then fall back to video. And so this way, every device that can play a video is a device that can consume Office Mix content. And in that, if I chose video, it adds a couple seconds to the upload process, so I didn't do that. We automatically encode it for you, we distribute it for you, and we'd all do all the hard bits associated with delivering high-quality video experiences. So once I upload my mix, it now gives me an opportunity to preview it. I can change the name of it if I want. I can, but what I want to talk you through is some of the permissions and sharing options. There's two ends of the continuum here. I can make it private, in which case only I have access to it. I'll log into mix.office.com, and when I do, I'll have access to mixes that are mapped as private, but no one else will have access to them. Now the other end of the continuum is public. What public means is we go way out of our way to take all the text on your slides and serve it up to Bing, Google, Yahoo, and others to optimize the likelihood of search engine discovery of your content. Now that's also, by the way, fairly rare. Most educators and users of Mix prefer to keep their mix within their cohort, within their students, within their classroom, within their organization. So I'm going to take you through the options that are most commonly used, which are really unlisted. If I make it unlisted, then search engines can't find it. You can't discover it on the Office Mix website. The only way people can find this mix is if I take this link and I give it to them, or I take an embed code down below and embed it within some experience such as Moodle. So I can just copy paste this embed code down below and paste it inside of Moodle. Now the other option that's frequently used is you can, similar to unlimited or unlisted, you can make it limited. What limited means is that no one will find the mix unless I give them the URL or I've embedded it inside of Moodle or another learning management system or portal environment or a social media environment. And what this means is that it's unlisted, but yet I'm going to require people sign in with one of those 4 authentication mechanisms in order to get access to their mix. Now this other little checkbox here that says let others modify and share under Creative Commons, what that means is I'm enabling remixing. So that's how I'm going to publish this mix is, I'll make it unlisted. This way you guys don't have to log in or to see my mix. But I'm going to click this checkbox, which means anyone who gets access to my mix can in fact download the source, the PowerPoint file, and do with it what you want. So I'm totally enabling that remixing scenario, and I'll click Save. Now the last thing that I really want to demo for you is part of the administrative experience around analytics. This is where, when I talk to educators about Office Mix, this is usually where they light up, because we present back to them a significant amount of usage data and telemetry data that they can use to personalize instruction or improve, improve the quality of their content. And to do that, I'm going to log in with a different account, and I'll share with you a mix that has a number of users that have gone through it, as well as some poll questions and assessments, and I'll show you some of the data that's presented back to the mix author. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and sign in with my organization account. This is where if I wanted to publish content and I wanted it only to be available to Microsoft employees, my colleagues, I would sign in with my Microsoft account and share it selectively so the content wouldn't be accessible really outside of the bounds of my organization. And so I'm going to find one of these mixes that I've created here and share with you some of the analytics. It's not the right one. As you see, I've created a couple of these in my time here as product manager for Office Mix. And so this is the experience. So when you go to My Mixes, you'll see a list of all the mixes that you've watched recently, and you'll see all the mixes that you've uploaded yourself. And then you can view the details. That's where you change the permissions. You can download the presentation. You can download the video of the presentation, or you can delete it. I'm going to go to Analytics. Now what Analytics does is it will show me a list of all of the slides within my presentation. This one happened to have a lot of them, 30 or 40 slides or so. And it gives me some aggregate data on viewers' usage of these individual slides. And so you'll see 6 viewers looked at slide 1 for a total of 17 views. That means I have some viewers who looked at this more than once. And they spent an average of 47 seconds on this slide. Now as I scroll down, you'll see my 6 viewers goes to 5, goes to 4, goes to 2, goes to 1, essentially giving me the message that I shouldn't create PowerPoint presentations that have 30 slides in them. I should probably compress this information or break it up potentially into multiple mixes. That's a good insight gleaned. Let me tell you another insight. If I scroll down here into one of these slides we can see that in some cases, like this slide here, I had 3 visitors and 3 views, but the average amount of time spent on the slide is 27 seconds. Well, that's an interesting insight that might suggest that perhaps there's content on the slide that is confusing. It might be that there's hyperlinks on the slide, so people clicked the hyperlinks, went off to some other website, and then came back to Office Mix. Or it might just be that I have a lot of density in the information or data that I'm trying to present. Now, the next question that you might ask is, well, who are these 6 people? And I want to drill into each of them individually. So here's a list of the 6 people. Looks like I viewed this presentation 8 times, and total time spent inside of it was 27 or 24 seconds. Well, I can now click on one of the users, and it then shows me % complete through the slides, the number of poll questions that I completed. It compares me with the average. So on average, people viewed this presentation 2.8 times, whereas I viewed it 8 times. I viewed 19 slides. On average, it's 19.8 slides. And then it shows me the amount of time I spent in the total number of views on a slide-by-slide basis. Now you'll also see that this slide here is in fact a poll question. And so this would show me what individual users' responses would be to questions or poll questions that I've added to my presentation. By the way, all of this data can also be exported to Excel, and we see educators create really interesting models and simulations and charts inside of Excel. So if you fancy yourself as a pivot table ninja, you can have access to all of this data and create other visualizations of the data that the Mix team hasn't yet provided for you. This is where I can pivot to viewing all of the exercises, quizzes, and poll questions inside of my Mix and see specific people's answers to specific questions and whether they got them right or wrong or not. This Mix happened not to have any quiz questions, but it had a poll question. And here is where it's giving me people's responses to individual questions. And then this view also provides an aggregate across all of the people who have participated or viewed in this Mix. Aggregate, % correct in the number of questions, time spent overall by student, learner, viewer, and so forth. The one last thing I'd like to share with you is Mix has a lot of really great tutorials in the gallery section of Office Mix, as well as some mixes that might inspire you to create great experiences. Many of these, by the way, are downloadable, and so if you want to reuse any of the content that's in the gallery, many of them you'll be able to do that. That's that remix scenario. Here's one such tutorial that gives you an introduction to Office Mix. And we have a couple interesting couple interesting best practices that I'd like to share with you from our tutorials. The first best practice is the first slide is what we're looking at here. Looks nothing like PowerPoint. It looks like something that I would want to click on. And that's first best practice that I'll share with you is have a engaging title slide that will draw people into your lesson or your presentation. The second best practice, and the instructional designers among us already know this, is that we start in our tutorials telling you what we're going to tell you, and then we finish them telling you what we just taught you. That's a common instructional design technique that I think plays really well within Mix. Further, we make each of these hyperlinks. So if I want to jump right to the upload and share module, I can click on that, and you'll see that it jumped right to that specific module here in my presentation. Now, the last thing I'll share with you here in terms of best practices is we then finish all of our tutorials with a list of the tutorials. We essentially give you a little checkbox that says, well done, Jim, you just finished the introduction. Now there's 4 other tutorials that you might want to make your way through, and we take advantage of the fact that within this slide we can easily have hyperlinks that take people to other mixes to send them on to the next step in the journey of learning how best to use Office Mix. Well, hey folks, I'm just about out of time here. Look forward to answering all the questions you have. The PowerPoint presentation and the mix that I've used for today's webinar will be available on the Remote Learner website. Again, you can download it, remix it, make it your own. Sure appreciate everyone's time today.
Thanks, Jim. So we do have a couple questions here, and I'm going to pick out. So we have a question from Mary. When recording your mix, can you record one slide at a time, or must you record the complete slide deck?
Oh, hey, great question, Mary. Yeah, the answer is either way you want. You can record slide at a time, or you can stay in record mode and keep the record button pressed and record the whole presentation in one shot. Now, truth is, I never get it right the first time, and so my best practice that I'd share with you is I do it on a slide-by-slide basis. That way, if I mess up, or when I mess up, I only have to change one slide versus kind of changing the whole presentation. I also assume that I'll always get feedback, and I'll always want to go back and make improvements to it over time. And if you record a slide-by-slide basis, then you only have one slide to change as opposed to a whole audio track for all the slides.
Hey, Jim, we've had several questions about compatibility and accessibility.
Yes.
So first of all, someone wanted to know if the closed captioning option had to be purchased or if that was something that is just part of the free mix. And then they also wanted to know about if there was an accessibility checker built into Mix.
Great questions. No, the closed captioning feature does not have to be purchased. It's built into the player and built into Office Mix. You'll see the little closed captioning button down on the bottom of the player. It's lit up when there's a closed captioning file associated with the mix, and it's not lit up when there's not. The process of creating a closed captioning is you'll upload your mix, and you'll also create a video of your mix. You'll take the video of your mix to your favorite closed captioning service, create the closed captioning file, and there's a number of standards. The one we support is a TTML file. You'll upload that file, which aligns the closed captioning text with the timeline of the video, and then we realign it to the timeline of the Office Mix, and then we present it down on the toolbar here. And so one of the things that some accessibility experts had asked us to do is don't obscure the content by putting the closed captioning over the content. If you could find another place to put it, like on your toolbar, that would be great. So that's what we chose to go implement. In terms of an accessibility checker, we don't provide an accessibility checker per se. What we provide is all of the mix navigational elements, pause, play, slide sorter mode, and so forth, can be easily navigated via the keyboard. The closed captioning, is presented provided you go through the effort of producing the closed captioning file and uploading it to Office Mix.
Thank you very much. We have had several other questions about Scorm. They noticed that you can export to Scorm, and also, is that the only way to get the answers from the quiz questions to report to Moodle?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, there's really two different ways of, well, I guess 3 different ways of getting mixed content into Moodle. One way is you can just take the link to your mix and paste it into Moodle as a lesson or as an assignment. Students will click the link, they'll launch into Mix. That pops up a new browser that goes right to that lesson. Students will log in if you want to track the answers to questions and associate it with the student. That's one option. Option 2 is you can embed the mix into Moodle, and you go through the same process that you would do to embed a YouTube video into Moodle. It's super easy. The benefit there is it doesn't pop up a new browser for students to access the mix, and that way the experience remains more seamless inside of Moodle. Now, third option is you can export your Office Mix to Scorm. And the way we do that is we take your mix and we compile it into a video. And so in compiling it into a video, I'd just like everyone to understand that we remove the interactables, including quiz questions. So I think the author of that question the Scorm implementation we have may not solve for that specific issue. And then number 4, we're working hard on supporting LTI. LTI is a more modern standard that improves upon some of the constraints of Scorm. And so within the coming weeks, you can watch for an announcement from us where we'll have LTI support. And we'll be working with Remote Learner to validate that it's going to work fantastically well inside of Moodle.
And I think we've had several people also who have asked if there are any plans to make Mix available on Mac.
Great question. There is. We, over time, our strategy here is the Mix capability will find its way into all of the PowerPoint endpoints. So everywhere that PowerPoint runs, which is now Android, iPod or iPad, iOS, and other platforms going forward, including, of course, within the browser, the Mix capability over time will be available across all of those devices. I should let you know as well is that the Mix that I upload here and I share with all of today's attendees, you can download that and PowerPoint on the Mac can still edit the PowerPoint content that I've embedded in my Mix. What won't be possible is for users on the Mac to download and install the Mix toolbar. And so you'll have to use a PC or use a virtual machine or emulator like Parallels to do that on the Mac.
And you mentioned something about downloading the Mix that you showed us, and someone had asked earlier, is the download option, are you able to suppress that to keep people from being able to download it?
Yes, good question. Yeah, you sure can, and there's a lot of cases where you really don't want your students or viewers to have access to your source content. You really want to present it in a way that is the finished lesson and read-only. And so there was a little checkbox I showed when I was talking about permissions that controlled whether I would allow end users, viewers, students to download my Office Mix. Yep, so simple checkbox controls that.
Great. And then we did have a question earlier before we rebooted, so it's not showing up in our question list now, but several folks had asked for the cloud storage portion of Mix, since it's all stored in the cloud, is there a limit to the number or size of storage that you are given?
Yeah, great question. No limit. Mix is free, and in comparison to hosting and streaming the Olympics, Office Mix doesn't consume that much storage space. So yeah, no limit. We have no intention of charging users for storage space going forward. Any other questions? These are great.
There's a question here. I think this is more in your realm, Shelley. Someone wants to know if they can see a Mix added to a Moodle site. Maybe we could we can create a mix and a video mix and put that up on our website so people can see that.
Yep, sure can. And in fact, one of the mixes that I showed quickly as an example was a mix that talks about how to embed Mix within a Moodle site, and it shows that. And so when you get access to my Mix, you'll have access to that other mix that I direct to see exactly how that's done.
And we are actually starting to use Office Mix to develop, or redevelop, I should say, some of our video resources that are in Learning Spaces. So the Learning Spaces team has been playing with it for several weeks now. Someone had asked whether or not Remote Learner had vetted Mix, or if that was something that they would have to pay for, that a client would have to pay for, and no, you would not have to pay for that. Mixes embed into Moodle using a filter plugin. I posted a link to it in the chat, and that's a free plugin. It's the Embed filter that you use to embed not only Mixes, but you can also embed Flickr content and SlideShare content as well. with that filter. So it really embeds it much like it would a YouTube video straight into your page. Or you can embed using the link that Jim mentioned, and then you could force your students to log in so that you could keep track of their responses in the quizzes if you had interactive pieces in your mix. But if you just have audio and video in your mix, you can embed it much like a YouTube video. And someone asked if it would be viewable on Apple devices as well, and as far as we have been able to test it, it does play. As long as they can see your Moodle page on their device, then they should be able to watch the mix if you are just embedding it using the Embed filter. And according to everything I've seen, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they use the link to go to view a mix, they should be able to view it on any type of device, correct?
Yeah, it's practically any modern device.
Okay. And we did have one question, is Mix going to stay free for a long time? They're very excited about the fact that it's free.
Yeah, I expect that question, of course, every time we do a webinar. And yeah, we have no intention of charging for Office Mix. The Microsoft's objective here, we really have two objectives to be totally transparent with you. You know, one objective, of course, is to drive usage of Microsoft Office. Though my job on the Office Mix team, I don't really have to be too concerned with that. We just have to deliver capability that folks value and will use. And then the other objective is to ensure that we're driving significant value to educators, both in enterprise, K through 12, higher ed. And so that's definitely where our spiritual core is within Microsoft, is to learn everything we can about what would drive value to educators. I see another question online from Venus Watson. Does your work or final mix automatically go into the gallery? And the answer there is no. You really control that. When I talked about permissions, you can set your mix as public, in which case it doesn't go into the gallery view, but if people search, they may be able to discover it. Now, usually, the overwhelming majority of content that people have uploaded to Mix, they don't want it to be public. They want it to just share it with select groups, a cohort, a list of students, a specific enterprise, and so forth. And so there's no risk of sort of accidentally having your IP or content you don't want to be shared with the whole of the internet showing up on the gallery someday. But if you want it on the gallery, there's a path to get it there.
Jim, Rod just posted a question. We know when you export to Scorm that it takes the interactive pieces out, but does it send data that would allow Moodle to mark the activity as complete?
It does do that. That's
okay.
Right.
So you could track completion, just it would not have any of the quiz questions in there.
That's correct. Yeah, I see a question from Kevin. Any plans for password mixes? We've been asked for that more than once, and I can't confirm that we're definitely going to go do that. But we have had that request more than once, so it's certainly on the list of things we need to go explore. And I certainly understand the intent. You create content you want to share selectively, with a specific audience, and you don't want that content to accidentally get in the hands of others. One way to do that is to take the link from Office Mix and put it inside of something else that requires a password. And that way you've effectively password protected access to your mix, because there's no other way for anyone to get access to it.
Now, we had another question, and I don't know if you're familiar with Storyline, but someone asked if you could just kind of compare Mix and Storyline.
Yeah, I have a little bit of familiarity with Storyline, and there's a variety of really great e-learning authoring tools or video production editing tools, and the way I like to think about it is they all have significant strengths. And like when you compare Mix to Storyline, I think Storyline is more sophisticated in a number of ways. We've really optimized on simplicity. Only PowerPoint skills are necessary to be proficient in producing great mixes. The service is free, both the add-in to PowerPoint as well as cloud storage, distribution, analytics, and so forth. And then we've also invested in the player experience that presents the PowerPoint slides. And in that way, we've done something that really only Microsoft can do. We're actually presenting the slide, not a facsimile of the slide or an HTML version of the slide or a screenshot or a video of the slide. We're presenting the slide. So people's investments in slide animations, people do that all the time, slide transitions and hyperlinks continue to function. Does a mix work only when uploaded to the Mix cloud? Rod asked that question. And the answer is, well, yes, sort of. So for example, I can take this PowerPoint file that I was editing during my demo, I can save it and I can email it to you, or I can put it on OneDrive or Box or any other cloud storage. And then people can get access to my content. They can play the video in the slide. They could even answer the poll questions. However, they don't get the player experience with the scrubber bar and the slide sorter view and the speed up, slow down, and closed captioning and so forth. They don't get that player experience if you don't upload it to the cloud, and you don't then get the rich analytics on a slide-by-slide basis.
And we really seem to have a lot of interest, obviously, in the interactive portions, and someone was wanting a little bit of clarification as to how users would authenticate in a mixed quiz so that you would know whose answers belong to whom. So would they need to have an Office account, like an Office Live account, to log in for that, or how do you know who they are?
Great question. When you upload a mix, I talked about permissions, and one option is to not require people to log in at all. And when you not require people to log in, we present back to the author aggregate data that says 15 people looked at this for a total of 4 hours and 27 minutes and whatnot, but you don't get it broken down by individual user. If you need the data to be broken down by individual user, we require the user to log in. And again, we support 4 different authentication types. We like Google, so you can log in with a Google Plus account. You can log in with a Facebook account, with a Microsoft ID, like a Hotmail address, for example, or an organizational ID for organizations that are running Office 365. With LTI support, which is what we're doing next, sort of the successor to the Scorm standard, one of the big benefits that provides is it automates the single sign-on where students will not be required to authenticate with those 4 methods. It essentially provides a 5th method, authentication method, which is to say, just create this user if the user doesn't already exist, because the user launched this within a Moodle instance via the LTI protocol, is kind of the way we think about that. And in that case, the outcomes will be passed back to Moodle, meaning the final grade will be passed back to Moodle on a user-by-user basis. So we're pretty excited about LTI unlocking all of those scenarios in a way that's really friction-free for everybody.
I think that's most of the questions. The only thing that I see that we haven't covered is someone was asking if they could see what an Excel export looks like.
Oh, yeah, happy to do that. What an Excel export looks like, we essentially drop all of the data that I showed you when I was demoing analytics. We drop all of that inside of an Excel file. And so I can show an example of one of those. I'm going to show my screen here. Hopefully I'll choose a presentation that won't get me fired if I show it. I'm pretty sure of that. So here I can go to Analytics, and when I go to Analytics, I can click the Export to Excel. That will then download an Excel file, which I can open, by the way, in Google Spreadsheets, or I can open on Excel on the Mac or any other platform. And it creates two tabs. One tab is what we call Lesson View Analytics, which is by user, how much time did each user spend per slide. And then we present other data on for the interactables, or quiz, poll questions, simulations, and so forth, such as how many attempts did I take, how many times did I answer the question correctly, did I use any of the hints, and then we also track some other information as well that we put in this other tab. So individual users' answers to individual questions, whether they got it right or wrong, the date and time that they answered the question, and so forth. Any other questions? Well, this sure was a fantastic group. Again, you'll get access to the mix after today's call. Yeah, and go to mix.office.com, download the Mix add-in, and begin your experimentation.
Great. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Shelley.